The Sawyer Mini is the most versatile personal filtration system available. It's a perfect solution for backpacking, hiking, hunting, fishing, scouting, international travel, and emergency preparedness. At a mere 2 ounces, the Mini fits in the palm of your hand and can filter up to 100,000 gallons of water from any freshwater lake, river, or stream. The Sawyer Mini has a 0.1 micron absolute pore size. It was tested to 10 million parts of bacteria and 1 million parts of protozoa without a single breakthrough. This is the highest level filters can be tested to, so we're confident these are the highest rates of filtration available.
And we're back. Not Chris Heaven with Jon Wheaton tonight. And I got my good friends, Mr. Chuck Nagel and Bruce the Moose.
Hey brother, how you doing?
How you guys doing tonight?
Lovely.
And I just found out these are some heart and soul of American blue collar workers, just salt of the earth type people. So you get some good insight from people that do everyday hard work, and that's awesome. So I'm glad to have you guys tonight.
Thank you, sir.
A pipe fitter and a ditch digger.
Yeah.
No.
This ditch digger's thawing out. I've been in a tree stand, so feels good to be inside.
Yeah, I totally get it. Real quick, we will do the conflict of question at the end of the episode. We've moved that to the end, so we can jump right into our topic. Tonight, the topic is just even further digging down this rabbit hole of government corruption and how much you should actually hate the government, because it is not your friend, no matter what they tell you on the lamestream media. They're absolutely lying to you. The government is not your friend, so don't be friends with it. So I think we can all agree on that.
Yes, sir.
But before we get started tonight, I think one of the biggest things is this is something that's not talked about enough, I don't believe, nowadays. Is today is a very, very historic day in the history of America, and it is Pearl Harbor Day. So this is the 83rd anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. So let's not forget the people that gave their lives on that fateful day, the people that sacrificed so much to win the Second World War. And I think we were talking a little bit. We're going to spend a few extra minutes on this because I think it's something, a lot of us, everybody here remembers where they were when 9/11 happened. If you're over the age of 30, 35, you remember what happened, whether you were in school. I remember my mom waking me up that day to tell me that the Twin Towers was being attacked, and I joined the military 2 days later. So, that's something that's fresh in all of our minds. We all still remember it. But Pearl Harbor, 83 years ago, most of the people that remember that are dead now. Even people that were kids, statistically, most of them have already passed on. So it's something I think it's important for us to keep, in the minds, because in the minds of Americans, because I think it's a symbol of how America recovers after crisis. So I have a couple things you wanted to share with us, a couple stories. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you for a few minutes.
Thank you, John. A day that will live in infamy, right?
Absolutely.
That said, let's face it, that was the greatest generation. My father passed at 94. When Pearl Harbor happened, it motivated him as an Ohio native to sneak into the Navy. He literally went to Navy Pier, got in underage, lied. They don't have computers to check, and they were taking anybody that was able-bodied. Mm-hmm. Dad was a firecracker. He was a small in stature guy, and while he was being trained on the range, he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a rifle. And the drill sergeant took him aside and, "Hey, Nagel, what's with you? You can't shoot a rifle, blah, blah, blah," ragging on him, and realized that he wasn't right-eye dominant. He was shooting righty. And he said, "Put your hands up here, pull this to your eye," and it goes to his left eye. He says, "Well, that's the reason. You're shooting with the wrong eye." He's like, "You never heard of such a thing, right?" He flipped around, boom, hit the target, turned out to be a marksman. They put him in what's known as the TBM Avenger. This is a picture that hangs on the wall here at the lodge. That's a picture he took out of the upper turret in his Avenger from another Avenger. And again, to have a camera those days, you know, we take it for granted in our phones, but he was given a presser who gave him instruments because they couldn't fit in the plane to take cameras up with them and document the war. So these are some pictures that he actually took. I hope you can see it okay.
Yeah, that's an F4F, I think.
Well, this plane, the Avenger, the one that he flew in, was a torpedo bomber.
Yep.
And his squadron was VC-92. And of course, the Pelican with the bomb bay doors had a 2,000-pound torpedo in it. And the Eagle with the pea shooter represented the gunners. They had a lower turret and an upper turret. And the old man was a pilot, so he actually was shot down twice. And lived to tell about it, came back. His life expectancy was 1.5 sorties. He never really told us much about it. When he passed, we found a lot of documents. When he flew 5 sorties, they gave him an accreditation, right? Then there was 10 sorties. Then there was 15. I mean, this guy was doing things that were just uncanny, right? But he flew off the Tulagi. He did a tour in the Philippines and Guadalcanal, and the stories of the Japanese fighters trying to kamikaze his plane because it carried the torpedo.
Yeah.
In a squadron of, you've seen maybe you haven't, Black Sheep Squadron. It was an old film, but it had the Corsairs. Those Corsairs protected the Avenger so it could get to its target, which is the submarine or the battleship or whatever, whatever they could take out on that sortie. But again, he kind of epitomizes, he's kind of like a hero. I mean, he just is. These people, they did what they had to do at any age and for any sacrifice,
Yep. That's incredible.
So my dad's story is just a little bit different because he was a kid, right? Mm-hmm. So he was probably 17 years old. He was born in 1930. So in Charleston, South Carolina, they recruited all these kids to become neighborhood watches after that attack. And what they had to do was 2 things. They had to go through the neighborhood, every car that drove by. This is crazy. They taped the top of the headlights so that only the bottom of the headlights shine through, right? So that the enemy, if they were coming in to attack, they couldn't see. And also they'd go around to the houses and get them to turn out lights. If you're not using your lights, knock on doors. Everybody knew each other. Yep. This was a task force. They went around knocking on doors. Turn off your lights. You don't need that light on. What are you doing with your lights on? These were kids, 17 years old. And then the rest of the night, they would literally go on the roofs of the houses with binoculars. Who knows what those look like? But they would sit on the roofs and watch for the bombers coming from Japan.
Wow.
And this was in Charleston, South Carolina. So imagine, that's just crazy stuff. And my dad eventually joined the Army when, once he was able. But
that's pretty crazy.
I just see a text there from Jim Walden about his father being in the Battle of Midway. This is my father's graduating class. And there was a point in his 80s when we would take him to Minnesota every year for a reunion. Every one of these gentlemen were dead at one point, and he was the only one surviving.
Wow.
So he passed at 94. That was about 7 years ago. And like you said, there's just nobody around anymore that remembers the sacrifices these people made.
Absolutely.
So for us to be able to talk about them and honor them for a few minutes, it really just scratches the surface. I hate to say it, but we're all kind of pussies and we're soft because they were so hard, cyclical,
Yep.
It's just awesome that they were able to do that and bring this country to a point where it could fall into a, shall we say, a soft trap where we've allowed foreign interference into the nation, and we're in the midst of cleaning it up. The military's doing it again, clandestine, of course, but we're going to see some amazing things here in the coming 4 years, I'm sure.
Yep. And a real quick note about the torpedo bombers and the Battle of Midway. We had a serious fault with our torpedoes in the Battle of Midway. The reason that we had to rely on dive bombers was because the design of the American torpedoes that were attached to those torpedo bombers, they had like a 20% success rate. So you were actually diving or going into battle with, and they knew that, they still attacked. What kind of courage do you have to say, I'm going to fly through a hail of artillery fire from a ship, and I might get a hit and it might not blow up, but I'm going to do it anyways because there's a chance I might actually get a hit. I might actually destroy a plane or a ship. That's courage.
Last of 8 kids, just a quick one. All my life, I grew up with the term flak. Don't give me any flak, blah, blah, blah. Well, flak for him was a flak jacket in a turret, knowing that they were shooting at them as they were diving to get that torpedo to its target. Not kamikaze, but damn near, just bail in the nick of time.
Well, even if the torpedo doesn't go off, if you hit it right, it's going to poke a hole in that ship.
Yep. They're going to have something to think about. Yep.
No doubt about it.
The Battle of Midway is a unique thing. Within 5 minutes in that battle, we went from winning the war or losing the war to winning the war because one dive bomber unit took out 3 out of 4 Japanese carriers in that battle. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Pretty incredible. If you don't believe in Providence, research that battle a little bit more because we were against the ropes and something shifted really quick. So anyways, to move on to our main topic, government corruption, I'm going to give you guys a chance to look at this. This is from Scott Jennings, who is been on fire in the media. I'm surprised that they still allow this guy on CNN, in all honesty.
Love him.
This is really, really interesting.
It's not just the money, which, they'll have to fight with Congress about. It's the fact that most people believe the government is too big. The bureaucracy stacked on the bureaucracy crushes a lot of people, crushes a lot of small businesses, kind of puts a stranglehold on a lot of things going on in American life. It crushes innovation. Right now we have federal government unions negotiating with the Biden administration to let some of these federal employees work from home for years and years and years, stuff that started during the pandemic. Now they want it to continue for years and years and years, cutting deals with Biden on the way out the door. This drives people crazy. Like, why does the government get so big? Why are there so many people working there? And why do they get so many perks and such good salaries when I don't feel like as a taxpayer, I'm getting that much out of it? So to me, yes, you're right about where the money is, but there's something to be said for just shrinking the size of government and jettisoning the stuff that nobody believes is necessary. Donald Trump was, and he has clearly stated from the minute he got into this race in 2015 that he would not cut Social Security and Medicare. It has never changed. That's number one. Number two, here's what I heard about the meeting today, that it went great, that they were very upbeat. There was a vibe of teamwork. Elon's kind of the visionary, but I'll tell you what I heard was that Vivek gets it. That was the phrase I heard today. He gets it. So you have 2 guys here. They're creative. And with Vivek, apparently he came in armed with a lot of technical knowledge about how to achieve some of the things they're talking about. But they're not going to cut Social Security and Medicare for people. Is there efficiency to be saved in the bureaucracy? I'm certain that there is.
Yeah. So, sorry, the volume is not real loud on that, but basically he's essentially saying that there was a meeting with the Department of Government Efficiency and key members of the Trump administration. It went well, and all of this fear mongering in the media and the Democrats, but I repeat myself, is aimed at trying to get people stirred up over nothing. It's just like the Department of Education. People don't realize we didn't have a Department of Education before 1980. Or I think it was 77 was when it was started. Education was way better back then. And so by adding more bureaucracy, we add more layers of red tape, and it doesn't help anything. I don't think there's a single organization in the government that has actually helped, and we'll get even more deeper into that. But I want to give Chuck, you a chance to kind of talk about where we're headed, what you guys kind of see the importance of something like the Department of Government Efficiency and what Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy are bringing to the table as far as being able to cut and slash this down to a reasonable size.
Well, I think the term follow the money is very applicable here. If you think about it, President Trump has made a commitment to abolish the IRS, to abolish income tax, to create some form of flat tax, and then ultimately the way they'll make that money up, probably 3 to 4-fold, will be by tariffs. And tariffs are, look at what he did in his first term as president before COVID. Let's go back to the Obama years, 8 years of Obama. Can anyone tell me what the greatest percent of GDP Obama had? Want to guess? It was like his highest. His highest was 1.9%.
I was going to say it was just under 2%. And average, what they say is supposed to be at least 2%.
Yeah, and the excuses they gave for not being able to get over that was, well, George W. Bush left us a mess. We're having to clean up the mess, and it's just, it was a bunch of bunk. Bottom line is they never did anything to stimulate growth. They just kept, feeding at the government teat, right? So ultimately, the country didn't prosper the way it should have. When Trump came in, it was very Reagan-esque because it was government laissez-faire, hands off, right? He lowered taxes. He increased trade with foreign nations, and he redid the trade deals. He got rid of NAFTA. He did all these things that ultimately got our economy growing to a blistering 4.2%, which is almost unheard of. We were at a point, literally, where the national debt, the ticker that goes and hundreds of thousands of dollars are clicking off every second as you watch, that clock was about to go to stop and go into reverse because the coffers of the U.S. government were going to start filling again. And we would have been turning into the black, which had never happened before. And go figure, COVID.
And then came COVID.
A certain disease, we'll call it, happened.
Oh, did I say that word?
Threw a wrench in the cog of that 4.2% GDP.
Yep.
And
almost as if it was designed to do that, Chuck.
Well, listen, you got to quit being a conspiracy theorist.
Right. Let me throw my tinfoil hat away.
So Chuck and I are big on people becoming researchers, right?
Yes, sir.
And one of the things we try to preach is get off Google, get off the frickin' the stuff they provide you, and Chris talks about Brave, and then there's a couple more, but I'm telling you, Twitter is the most powerful search engine on the planet right now. So for all the listeners out there, do this for me. Go type in Event 201 and start learning what happened. And that's all I'm going to say because I don't want to get us kicked off YouTube.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's it. Go read, go learn, go read the threads.
X is the most powerful search engine and truth you're going to find at your fingertips today. It just is.
The cool thing about X is you got to use discernment. So you got to look at some post and go, that guy's an idiot, that girl's an idiot. But, wait, this girl's a shining star. And I'm going to tell you what, I've recruited people off of all of these freaking social media platforms to come on our show. I didn't know them, but I watch what they say, and it's like, I want you on. Chris Heaven is one of them.
That's right.
Chris Heaven came on the Sting podcast because I found him on Twitter doing a live one day, and I was like, wow, blown away.
Yep.
That's how he ended up on our podcast.
That's awesome. Well, so moving into government corruption and what's going on here. Now, this is a very lengthy post. There's a video at the end. I'm going to kind of summarize it. This is from Owen Gregorian. Basically, what this is talking about is there were some financial data files from the House Judiciary that the House Judiciary uncovered. And these suspicious activity reports, or SAR reports, are a way that the FBI gets information about potential suspicious activity. And this very lengthy post goes into how the FBI was influencing financial institutions to actually turn over documents and to fill out these reports on anything that had the words MAGA, Trump, and a couple of other things, specifically looking at those things to try and get documented information on people. I'm going to play this video. It's a little long, so we'll probably cut it short, but give you guys just a quick understanding of why there needs to be severe cuts and reforms inside of these government agencies.
To a developing story now, House Republicans demanding answers from the Biden administration over, quote, alarming surveillance on you, the American people.
So documents show federal investigators asked banks to comb through transactions for terms like MAGA and Trump.
So those aren't the only phrases financial institutions were told to key in on in the aftermath of January 6th.
To put it all together, Brooke Singman, who has written the story on .com, joins us right now with details. Good morning to you, Brooke.
Hey, good morning, you guys. That's right. So House Republicans are now seeking answers from a former Treasury official after the agency told banks to flag consumer transactions that included terms like Trump or MAGA. Documents show that banks were told to search for customer data for other key phrases, including popular sports stores like Cabela's, Bass Pro Shops, and Dick's Sporting Goods. Now, federal officials also asked those banks to comb through customer transactions for book purchases, including religious texts like the Bible and media subscriptions. Officials allegedly said those purchases could indicate extremism. Now, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, who is leading this investigation, says search of those transactions violate Americans' constitutional rights. Listen.
So it was big banks looking and searching private transactions using key terms at the suggestion of the federal government to find out what you're buying, what you're spending your money on. Scary stuff. All it looks like, without any warrant, without any legal process, they undertook this as a way to identify domestic violent extremism.
Jordan.
So I'll stop it there. A couple quick words about this. These SAR documents actually are not under any kind of government oversight. So it's basically like a FISA court with no oversight is basically what it is. They can solicit this information about people and their purchasing experiences or purchasing history to see kind of what person they're, and notice the things that they're looking at. They're looking at firearms related, sporting goods, that kind of stuff. They're looking at religious things and they're looking at political things, but only one side of the political aisle. So conservative Christian Americans is the target here. Do you guys really think that we need the FBI? Bruce, I'm going to let you go first this time, but I'm a little alarmed and taken aback by this. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, so we talked about this before the show. Chuck and I like to put on the tinfoil hat a lot, and I've been kind of awake probably a little bit before 9/11, but 9/11 kicked it into high gear. But all I got to say is, for people, you got to turn off the television. What did they tell you about Snowden? What did they tell you about John McAfee? What did they tell you about Alex Jones? What did they think about Glenn Beck? All these people have been warning us for how many years now? And what are we doing? We're watching NFL. We're watching Major League Baseball. We're not going to town meetings. We're not going to school board meetings. You're going to get what you get, right? And I probably went off track a little bit, but
no, you're good.
It's like people got a freaking. I just told probably 50 people before I came on this show tonight. If you're still turning on the media, you're getting filled with garbage. Period.
Yep. Yep. You're eating propaganda.
Exactly.
Chuck, what are your thoughts on this whole thing?
Well, Donald Trump said, we have it all. Nothing can stop what's coming, right? What did he mean by that? Bruce mentioned John McAfee. McAfee antivirus. You know it. You see it on your computer. It's a household name. He was a very intelligent man. In fact, he purchased thousands of laptop computers and installed McAfee antivirus and gave them to the government. A gift. Here you go. Use the best. Great American. What he didn't tell them was he had a Trojan horse software in there that he could monitor all their activities. And so he literally gathered all the dirt that the government was up and doing, and things that we still to this day don't know all the details, but he gathered it up and gave it to the white hat generals. And you wonder why he had to go into hiding? All these people, they're going to be hailed as American heroes because they did the right thing. They figured out where we were being, shall we say, taken it from behind by our own country leaders who were being, well, there was interference, and it wasn't just payoffs. It was certain things in a lifestyle, and unfortunately, it got out of hand to a point where the country was unrecognizable. And when you brought an outsider into the presidency, like we wanted, a businessman, somebody who wasn't a politician, the entire family was in shock. In shock enough that they gave up their billionaire lifestyles and rallied and circled their wagons and said, yeah, we're in. Let's clean the mess up. They called it draining the swamp. But you can bet that this is going to go down in history. We believe it's the greatest sting operation the world's ever seen.
Yep. And with that in mind, I do think real quick, I posted up, American Nomad said that, they wanted to track all transactions over $600. Why is that? Well, typically, if you're a person that follows gun prices, there's a pretty common price point that hits when you include tax. Most guns are in the $500-$600 range. You include tax on that, or maybe some ammo. Guess what? It hits $600 pretty quick. As a 2A advocate, because I think that everything falls apart if we lose Second Amendment. There's some big things happening that we will get to later on in the show. But I think that really what we're looking at is, they want so badly to control our lives. They want so badly to inhibit us from being able to express and exercise our freedoms, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom to keep and bear arms. And when they get rid of those, and they've already tried, thank God, and we talked about this earlier, thank God that Elon Musk got pissed off and bought Twitter. And he lost money, but free speech was more important to him than any kind of monetary success. And now it is the number one source of news and information. And like Chuck said, you do have to use your brain a little bit sometimes, because you can get people that post crazy stuff on there. I see it all the time. But is that any crazier than what the regular news media is posting and positing on a daily basis? I mean, we heard Russia for 6 years, and it was a complete lie, a complete fabrication. In fact, I would say that the mainstream liberal news has actually lied to the American people in the last decade more than it has told the truth. And it's not even close.
Hey, John, another thing we push on our Sting podcast is for people to go read the Schmidt-Mundt Modernization Act and go look how I'll call him O'Biden, how Obama revised it during his term. And you got to think when you read it, you got to look at the original document and you got to look at the revised document that Obama did. So it's called the Schmidt-Mundt Modernization Act. I think it was Chuck, 2012 maybe?
Yes.
2012, 2014. But anyway, go read it. Again, you got to turn off the TV, put on your thinking hat for like 2 seconds and read it, and then go ask yourself why you're still watching the television.
Yep, no doubt.
Yeah. And that's why I turned it all off.
Yep. Well, and I think what you're seeing, 2024 was a direct shift away from mainstream media. It was honestly the biggest middle finger that we've ever given to mainstream media, because Trump was not going on CNN, MSNBC, or any of these places to just allow them to interview him and then clip him up to say things that he didn't say, like they've always done. What did he do? He went on 3-hour-long podcasts, like the one that we're on, like the one that you guys host, like the one that I host. They went on podcasts because that is the new media. And what are you required to do in a podcast? Have a conversation.
You got it.
And that is something that the Democrats can't do. You know why they can't do that? Because their policy sucks so much that if they get past the talking points that are posited on the news, there is nothing of substance behind that. And they know they're going to fall apart. Now, you do have liberal podcasts, but they don't do nearly as well as the conservative side, or even the what I would call the moderate side. Like Joe Rogan is long time been a Democrat, more moderate thinking Democrat. What I would actually kind of clarify or classify as a Democrat from like the 1970s or 1980s, before they went crazy far left. But all of those shows, because they're conversations and people can say, oh, I feel like I know this person. Trump caught on to that. He went on these podcasts and he basically said, I'm going to have a conversation with you, but at the same time, I'm having a conversation with the American people and people that may not be aware that, hey, I'm a normal guy. I'm not Hitler, as the media always wants to call me, and people saw that. And the shift of young male voters to the Republican side was directly because of podcasts like Joe Rogan, Sean Ryan, and all of these other guys that are doing great work, just having conversations with people.
Fact, brother. Hey, I'll
Yep.
give a shout out. I'm going to give a shout out to one of my sons. I won't say his name here, but he listens to Joe Rogan religiously. And I'm going to tell you what, he didn't do certain things in the last 5 years because of that show. And I'll say that so we don't get kicked off of YouTube.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Right.
Absolutely. So this next clip is from Peter St. Ongi, PhD. This is talking specifically about NGOs. So let's give this a listen real quick.
The Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, aims to gut not only the corrupt federal bureaucracy, but its army of so-called non-government organizations, NGOs, which our administrative state pays for everything from riots and censorship to gender mutilation and industrial-scale human trafficking. Last week on X, Vivek Ramaswamy called for greater scrutiny of government funding of so-called non-government organizations, which are, of course, an oxymoron. If it's government funded, it's not a non-government organization, and are a way to conceal unconstitutional or even illegal things our government does. Vivek posted in response to news that the architect of our Ukraine proxy war, Victoria Nuland, will be joining the National Endowment for Democracy, an NGO whose main activity seems to be organizing coups in places like Ukraine, Georgia, and Syria.
Isn't it always amazing that these people that are involved in these government organizations end up in these NGOs that are affecting all this stuff? And I've said for a long time, NGOs are just a money laundering scheme for the government. They can put money in there. They can do asymmetric warfare. They can do all of this other stuff with these NGOs that can cause, great destabilization in countries they want. I mean, don't get me started about the Ukraine debacle that we've been funding for years, and half of that money is probably going to the pockets of politicians on both sides of the aisle that are so corrupt that they can't see straight. But I'm going to let you guys talk about NGOs for a couple minutes. Real quick note, I am fighting a cold, so I'm talking a lot, and my throat is telling me I need to slow down a bit. So I'm going to let you guys talk for a few minutes. We'll start with Chuck, and then we'll go to Bruce on this NGO stuff.
Yeah, let's continue to follow the money. I mean, that's the bottom line. When you have an organization that's outside of the government but receiving government funding, look, abortion on demand. It doesn't get any more clearer than that. When you're using that as a form of contraceptive, and ultimately, it's coming off of the taxpayer's dime, so to speak. there's a control factor there. Why? You mentioned Ukraine. Let's play Jen Psaki. Let's circle back. Where are the two? What are the two biggest states that have the largest banks per capita? Do you know what states those are? You want to take a guess, John? What states might have the most banks in the country? You might think California, Florida, right? Texas.
Isn't one of them Iowa?
No, sir. It's Arizona and the great state of New Hampshire, where Bruce is from.
New Hampshire was another guess, but I thought maybe I'm thinking of something else when I thought of Iowa. But
maybe you've heard of a gentleman by the name of Mike Gill, or perhaps you've heard of the Pandora Papers.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Mike Gill gathered all the evidence, shall we speak, and handed it to some white hat general somewhere. And Mike has somewhat disappeared, and he's in protective custody, I would think. But basically, what he discovered was the money that was going to Ukraine and various foreign nations were being funneled back through South America and coming back into the United States, into two states, Arizona and New Hampshire. Where do you think the politicians were gathering the money that they, shall we say, were being laundered for them and receiving it and taking it into their own possession? That's why that's such a big deal. And notice here at the end, after the election and now before the inauguration, how the effort is pushed and being pushed to send more money to Ukraine, because the spigot's being turned off and they know it. I'll leave it at that.
Yes. And they're trying to get the last boatload of cash out on the last, it's like before Atlanta burned and this Confederate army is retreating. They're trying to get the last bit of money out to Ukraine so they can funnel it through at the last possible moment. And it's disgusting and sickening.
Yeah, it shines no brighter than Zelensky himself. Look at his properties, look at his yachts, look at what Zelensky's doing. Was he doing it before Russia invaded Ukraine?
No, he was a freaking actor in Hollywood.
There you go. There you go.
Yep.
And when the world realizes that our deep state was funding certain laboratories in Ukraine to produce certain things that affected the world, which stopped the cog of the Trump economy at a blistering 4.2%. Again, I'm not mentioning certain things, but you can connect the dots. These are the things that are going to be released, and ultimately the world's going to go, no way. Because listen, in the Vietnam War, when 55,000 soldiers died for this country, and we're talking about, what happened at Pearl Harbor today, 83 years ago from today, do you know how many men were killed? 55,000. I grew up with that number. That was a huge amount. That's more than a stadium full of people. They killed over 20 million people worldwide with this particular thing they created. And it's time to pay the piper. Justice has to be served. And there's a reason. Once Elon Musk took over and named it X, and took over Twitter, he started doing what? Twitter drops, right? Drop, drop. He exposed everything except for one thing, the Fauci files. Why hasn't he dropped the Fauci files yet?
It's coming, brother.
Timing is everything, isn't it?
Absolutely. And ironically, we will get to this in just a moment, because Anthony Fauci is going to come up in just a moment in the brief. Kanzi, thank you so much. You're just dropping truth bombs in the comments.
I love that person, whoever that is.
You are dropping truth bombs. All these NGOs.
There you go.
Hey, so I'll speak a little bit to that, but I want everybody to understand who this person, Joni, Joni Ernst, Joni Ernst.
Yep.
She's a rhino, right?
Oh yeah.
Go look at what she votes for. Go look how she hugs and loves frickin' our friend in Ukraine. I say friend with a smirk, but go watch what she's doing. She's a Republican, right? Yeah, I don't think so. But anyway, I'll leave that. I'll skip over that. But what I want people to think about is Go to Twitter. You know, this is what we teach on my channel, on our channel all the time. Go type in NGO. Right? I just did it while Chuck was talking. I typed in NGO in the Twitter search bar and I hit enter. Very first thing off that I get is Freedom of Information Act confirms that the 2024 coup has begun. Flyers being distributed on foreign soil via NGO in Mexico, including bathrooms, encouraging illegals to vote for your overthrown government. Skip down to the next one. Klaus Schwab admits he controls business, politicians, media, governments, NGOs in caps, religious leaders, and of course scientists that are very important. The global terrorist admitted on camera that he controls the propagandists disguised as the media, terrorist organizations disguised as NGOs.
There you go.
And I'm telling you, I just typed those 3 letters in, NGO, hit enter. You know, people got to learn how to use these tools, right?
Yep.
You're getting fed garbage on TV. Go use your brain.
Yeah. And just a side note about Joni Ernst, one of the podcasts I listen to on a daily basis is he's on the Blaze. It's Steve Dace. He's actually out of Iowa.
Yep.
Love Steve. Great dude. He was huge on the unspecified virus from unknown origins 4 years ago. And that's really where I became a huge fan of his, because he pushed back against everything, had data, had people like Dr. Robert Malone and Dr. Peter McCullough, who were blacklisted because of their stance against the specific thing that was being put in people's arms at the time. That now we're seeing news reports of some very unusual illnesses and fast-acting cancers happening across the country with people. Very interesting. But I will say this. There are some very powerful people, including Steve, within the state of Iowa that are moving to disenfranchise Joni from this garbage. She is not liked in her own state. And there are some very powerful forces in that state that are aligning against her. So we are hopeful that this is her last term. And she's been, if you watch the news, the press conferences with Mitch McConnell over the last couple of years, there are always a few people standing in that circle of people. Joni is always there. So she is a snake. She is a swamp creature.
Yeah.
And just because she comes from I'm surprised she's flown under the radar this long, but she is a snake and is one of the leaders against the nomination and confirmation of Pete Hegseth.
That's right.
That's one of her things that has really drawn a lot of attention, because there are some very powerful people, including Elon Musk, involved in the combating these rhinos from not confirming him, because I think he's exactly the guy we need in there. And I think Trump thinks that as well. And I think even the media is trying to float other names that I don't think would be bad at the job, but I think Pete is the man for the job. And real quick side note, if you guys want to hear him answer all of these allegations, Megyn Kelly just had him on her podcast a couple of days ago.
Yeah. Bring it, baby.
Excellent 2 hours to listen to.
Yeah.
And you really get him explaining his journey. And, you know, nobody's perfect. Everybody has skeletons in their closet. And he doesn't hide away from those things, but he's very unequivocal and very, very matter of fact about what he says and everything that's he's being accused of. Anyways, side note, I'm going to throw these next couple up here. Excuse me.
You're good.
And we can just react. So it looks like nearly 100 quote unquote national security officials are reportedly signing a letter expressing opposition to Tulsi Gabbard confirmation to the DNI post. So, and then let me share this next.
So while you did, how many people was it? Was it 51 intelligence officers that said Hunter Biden's laptop was garbage?
Yep.
So now why did we double that number on her?
How many how many of those are the same names, do you guys think? here's old Ron Paul. I think that guy's in his 80s now, just dropping truth bombs. We look at, he's talking about eliminating foreign aid and all this stuff. Because I know, and you guys know this, you guys have been, workers in the trades for most of your lives. Do you guys ever feel like the government's on your side? You ever feel like the government's got your back? But we'll send all this money overseas to other countries, and we don't know where that money's going. We don't know what's being done with that money. In all honesty, it's probably being funded to operations to hurt us, especially in the case of like Iran.
I'll ask one question. How's North Carolina doing? And then we're going to send how many billions to Africa? They gave residents of North Carolina got $750.
Yep. Wasn't aid though. It was a loan. You had to fill out paperwork.
Yeah. So what are you going to do with that? Go buy a carton of eggs?
Yeah. And then you could stand a chance to actually have to pay that back or to lose your property.
Just remember this, folks. We're waiting on America to stand up. That's what this whole exercise is about. We're still waiting on you to stand up.
Amen.
That's what this is about. And we're failing miserably.
Listen, you talk about being a working man all our lives. The Democrat Party was supposed to be the party for the working man. Vote Democrat, right? I mean, blue collar, vote blue. Think about it. They've convinced the working man that an income tax refund is something that you're supposed to get, right? I mean, they're doing it for you. That's your own money they're giving back to you, idiot. In a perfect world, you wouldn't have income tax. In a perfect world, it would go back to what we used to do, and that is tariffs. They would generate their money via tariffs. The IRS gets abolished. Basically the internal revenue system goes bye-bye. They implement a form of flat tax. Ultimately, everybody then has to pay tax, and it's minimalized because you don't have to worry about Social Security and the whole shooting match. The tariffs.
How rich was America when tariffs were used before all the taxes came into it?
Well, this is something that I talk to for my coworkers and such that are either on the other side or they just don't understand or don't read this stuff. Tariffs were how the government was funded. It was tariffs in combination with state funding, but the states decided the funding at the time. In my opinion, there are two amendments to the Constitution that we should move to abolish immediately, and that's the 16th and the 17th. I forget. I get them mixed up, but one of them is the federal income tax, and that allowed them to circumvent the state level and go straight to the person. Federal income tax. It also didn't require them to actually enact free trade, so they could pad their own pockets with trade differentials. They could do all of this stuff, and they could enrich themselves via this kind of stuff. The other one is the nomination or the election of U.S. senators by the state legislature versus how it is now, popular vote. Before that amendment was passed, it was up to the state legislature to elect the person that was going to represent the state in Washington. They could also recall those people if they felt like they weren't voting in alignment with the state. Do you want to know why U.S. senators are so brazen now? Is because they don't have to answer to anybody but the big donors in their states that operate in the big cities, and they don't have to worry about the little guy anymore. Whereas if the state legislature is electing, you have people from all over the state. You have people from the rural areas. You have to appease all of them, and it is truly an example of what the state wants. I'll also say this. If that was still enacted, we would have 57 Republican senators. Minimum, because of the way the state legislatures break down. So those are, in my opinion, the two biggest, and I kind of got on a soapbox there for a second, but those are the two biggest amendments that I would abolish immediately out of the Constitution.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give a shameless plug here for a group that I'm a member of. It's called tacticalcivics.com. Tacticalcivics.com. Just go look it up. Listen to what Jon just said. It's exactly what they're about. I'm a member. Chuck's a member. People that follow us are members. And Trump's doing what? Trump's trying to send all of this crap back to the states so that we can fix it. Right?
Mhm.
That's how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be at the state level, not at the federal level. The feds are supposed to do what? Protect our borders, basically.
And they did a great job here the past 4 years, didn't they?
Yeah. What happened to that? Oh, they're DEI.
Yeah, I can't even think of a better job that's ever been done on the border, right?
Well, look, listen, all you have to look at is since the election, look at the endless parade of human beings that have gone to Mar-a-Lago, the Southern White House. Look at the leaders. Look at the most recent leader. Who did he meet with? Trudeau, right? What did he tell Trudeau? Look, if the American people are going to continue to give you $100 billion a year, you should become the 51st state of the union, and you could be the governor. And my Canadian friends lost their mind. They're like, we're all for it, but he ain't going to be the governor.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. I think that, what you're seeing is real power being shown, real leadership being shown, and the world is starting to line up and align back in the direction it should be going. So real quick, this is the last one of our first block of news articles. And this one's very interesting. We all are aware of what happened with the absolute abhorrent pardon of his drug addicted gun law violating a foreign financier, Hunter Biden.
The first son. And, but that's not the end. That was just the beginning. And this is Alina Hubbard or Hubba from who is one of Trump's legal team, talking about some very shocking things that may be happening soon.
You heard Binder say that Joe Biden was wrestling with this pardon. Do you believe there was a lot of wrestling with the idea of pardoning your son?
No, and I guarantee you, and you can quote me on this, I'll come on your show when it happens. He's going to pardon himself. He's going to pardon his family, Shifty Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, and anybody else who had their hands in the cookie jar. I do not doubt it. So all we're hearing is leaks of something we already knew. They lied to us during the election. The American people saw through it. And now here we are. Pardon after pardon will be handed out. And I assure you of that. Listen, KJP is admitting it. More are to come, but it's going to be rocking the nation when we see who it is that he pardons.
You heard Binder say
rocking the nation. I know that. Well, here's a question. Why do you need a pardon if you didn't commit a crime?
How can you pardon? How can you pardon if you're not the president? Oh, did I say that?
Well, key point there, but it's like, why do these people, Anthony Fauci's name, they said his name was going to come back up. His name has been floating around the last couple of days. There's a reason for that, guys. That when the lid is blown off of the Fauci files and you guys find out exactly how evil that disgusting demon of a man is, it will blow. I think it will surprise anybody that has not been heavily dipped down in this propaganda war that we've been in since 2020. That man is evil.
Hitler will be surpassed by many, many people we all know and thought we knew. You watch. Hitler's going to look like a schoolboy compared to what these people have done.
Millions of lives, blood on their hands. It is. Yeah, I think we're all going to be surprised. We're all going to be blown away when the reckoning comes.
How hard is it to lie about history if you control the media?
Well, they've proven it's very easy, huh?
Sink that in. Let that sink in for a little bit.
And us cozy Americans and the cozy Europeans, we've gotten too soft. We've allowed it to happen. We've allowed a lot of things to happen. We've allowed prayer to leave our schools. We've allowed single parent homes to become normal. Look at what we've got. Look at the children we've raised or tried to raise. You can't. It's all about the family unit. And they knew if they destroyed the family unit, they'd be on to destroying America. That's what it's all about.
Here's a little rabbit hole for you on destroying.
Why is everything a 3-letter agency?
There you go.
And I want people to really think about this for a minute, right? And I'll try to tie a few together. Let's go FBI, NFL.
Oh, go back further. Go New World Order, please.
Let's go CIA. Let's go CIA, CBS. Let's go ABC and ABC.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, I could ATF.
Yep.
Right? I could go on for an hour. Why is it always 3 letters? Are they all controlled by the same people?
Well, they're in bed together because just like Jen Psaki, she left press secretary. What does she immediately do? Gets a job at a news organization. And then people from news organizations go into the government and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. It's because they're all propagandists.
That's
and
right.
They all want the message to be pushed out.
Yep.
What happened on November the 5th is that they got the biggest middle finger and the biggest wake-up call. Now, they're not out of the fight. Don't let them fool you. But they are shaken. They are worried. They are kind of counting whether they should be packing bags like Ellen DeGeneres and moving out of the country.
Hey, look at Morning Joe going to Mar-a-Lago. Think about it.
Yep. Please don't hurt me, Papa Trump. Please don't hurt me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. And what did he say? There'll be no deals with those that would harm children. None.
And there should not be. Hey, we're going to pause real quick and do a quick word from our sponsor, CCW Safe. So real quick, here is a video for you guys to watch.
Necessity truly is the mother of all invention. And there's so many successes like yours where the product didn't exist, the company didn't exist, and you had to invent it yourself to fill that void.
What we provided, even at the time when we started CCW Safe, it was really better than what most officers were getting through their unions or departments. And I, you mentioned earlier about competitors. I fully believe that whatever, all of our competitors are going to do exactly what they say they're going to do. It's just we do it a little different. We're not an insurance company or a critical response team. We're really the only one in the industry that has a dedicated critical response team like we have. And, that first 48 hours is so important to lock down. So we just do things differently.
Yep. And CCW Safe does do a little bit differently than most of these other self-defense insurance companies. They don't have clawback fees. They don't have fees that are going to get taken back away from you. When they say they're going to cover you, they're going to cover you 100% of what they say. So look them up. They're a sponsor of tonight's episode and a really, really high level and very integrity-based company. So check them out, ccwsafe.com.
So John, before we move on, now that before you bring, you're talking insurance. Are we going to discuss this assassination in New York?
You know what? I didn't have that queued up. We did not. I didn't have it queued up, but we can briefly discuss it. I don't mind. I don't mind that at all because.
Mine's real simple. It's back to Twitter again, right? Mm-hmm. So remember the assassinator dumped 3 shells on the ground, 3 cartridges, right? And there was supposedly something written on each one.
Mm-hmm.
And what I understand, this could all be BS, but I want people to go look this up. Deny, defend, depose. So I'm telling you, Twitter again, right? That's what we preach on our Sting podcast. Type in deny, comma, defend, comma, depose. Hit enter and go. Happy reading, happy research. I'm telling you, these people are being set up in DC. They are being set up so bad. And all those 3 words lead you back into insurance companies.
It was a sanctioned hit.
What does an insurance company do if they don't want to pay you? What's it called? They deny you.
Yep.
And then if you fight it, they depose you. then they drag you into court, or they defend it, and then they drag you into court and depose you. Can you afford to do that? You can't.
And that's really, and this is kind of adjacent to that, but that's really what the whole idea of them suing people for frivolous things, because they know the reality is, and most people can't pay the court fees.
You can't afford it.
Yeah. Because, that's the one thing with like stuff like when they sue Elon Musk, he can afford the lawyers to go in there, and like, I think it was in Missouri or one other state where he basically got it thrown out because he had the lawyers that basically come through and say, nope, this isn't even your purview in this state to do it. And it was some liberal DA trying to do some kind of backwards working of some law, and they do that stuff to people all the time. The thing is the average Joe like us, we couldn't afford those attorneys' fees, because that's probably millions of dollars in the long run.
So,
I mean,
circling back. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Circling back to this assassination, right? I want you to kind of put this in the context of Hunter Biden's laptop. Think about what this guy did. He went in front of a camera and shot somebody. They also supposedly have pictures of him getting on a bus, being transported around. Supposedly they got a picture of his face in a motel. And then what does he do? He leaves his backpack. He left his backpack somewhere. Where have we heard that story before? All right, listen. I'm gonna wrap it up real quick because my tinfoil hat's growing. But think about this: who did stock trades before that killing happened? We all heard it. We all know it. I'm gonna give you initials. NP. NP.
NP.
Right? Who's screaming the loudest to have pardons right now?
NP.
I'm gonna give you another one. CS.
Ooh.
You know who that is, right?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you what, folks. How did they find all the J6ers and then track them down? What did they do? Tell me, Chuck.
Cameras.
No. Cell phones.
Cell phone pings.
Yeah,
They
geo-tracking
pinged all
data.
the cell phones,
Yep.
right? Geo-tracking. You watch. I'm going to go public right now and say, this cell phone that this guy's got is going to lead back to those three initials I just gave you. I'm going to go public right here.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Let's we'll have you back on if this turns out to be true. Because, and I mean, I'm not saying I doubt it, because I mean, when we go back to the assassination attempt on Donald Trump back in July, and the geo-tracking data that found that going to the FBI building in DC from the assailant's house.
How big a tinfoil hat was that?
Yeah, we're just crazy conspiracy theorists. I'm going to have to get some new ones because all mine came true.
That's right.
Just remember, military laws and orders and operations. I'll leave it at that.
We don't have to tell you a damn thing.
Yeah. So our second section of the show is typically a grab bag of different news things. So we'll probably touch back on the government corruption thing because it's probably the biggest thing in all of our lives. But I want to cover a couple of other things in the news. So give me just a second. I'll throw this up on the screen. So this is related to the border. Government lawmakers propose bounty system to report migrants. $1,000 for reporting immigrants without proper documents. Law is one of several state-level proposals on immigration. Trump has promised mass deportations for people who immigrated illegally. Quick, gentlemen, snap reaction on bounties for reporting illegal immigrants.
Chuck?
Go ahead,
I'll
Chuck.
go first. I don't know. I don't know that that's necessary. I think about it. Think about this. When everybody crossed the border, what did they get? They got an Obama phone and a credit card.
Yep.
And a free airfare. Whatever city they wanted to fly to, they flew them, right?
Yep, they have all those records.
Following the money.
But I mean, the murder of Laken Riley requested to be flown to Georgia. That's how he got there.
Yep.
Just saying.
Again, who did he talk to?
Right.
Tell me they don't know that already. I bet you money they know.
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
So I'll just add a little piece to that. I mean, I like the way that Chuck went with that, but he and I always have these discussions. You know, he'll throw something out, I'll throw something out in between each other at 4:30 in the morning. but think about this, right? So what if that's all a big sting as well, right?
Yeah, smoke them out.
What the whole thing's a sting. I mean, it's like, I just get chill bumps when I think about it. It's like, so let's look at, we know who the patriots are in the U.S. There's 1% of Americans. They joined the military. They fought for this country. Guess what, America? You're getting ready to be asked to support your country. And we're going to put a bounty on it. We're going to give you the chance to become more than the 1%. We're going to give you the chance to become the 5%. Because I can tell you what, right now, if I know where they're at, I'm gonna dial that number. I don't even want the money.
No, I do it
Give
for
it,
free.
give it to the next guy, right? Because there's people out there in North Carolina that aren't getting money from FEMA right now, right? So I really think this bounty is going to put pressure on folks that are asleep and go, do I love my country or do I hate my country?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's going to flip a whole nother batch of people over to say, this is how we get our country back.
Yep. Absolutely. In other news, we're going to kind of shift to Second Amendment stuff real quick. Thomas Massey I did a video on our YouTube channel, Righteous Savages, about the national reciprocity that Trump is planning on signing into. Basically, what I've heard is it's going to be probably an executive order to try and force a court battle. But there's also other end of that, the legislation or the legislature. Thomas Massey, huge proponent of the Second Amendment. Honestly, if I had to pick a congressman to be in charge of ATF, he would be the pick, in my opinion, because he is very pro Second Amendment. I just don't think we could lose him in the House. He is too big of a voice there. But he is proposing a bill for national constitutional carry to prohibit states from requiring a permit to carry a firearm. I'm going to basically just kind of sum up my stance on this is shall not be infringed. Any law restricting the ownership or practice of carrying firearms is an infringement upon that right, full stop. There is no argument to be had. There is no law that can prevent me from my God-given rights. Now, you can make it harder for me to purchase and own a gun and carry a gun, but guess what? You're not going to stop me. And I would rather be judged by a jury of my peers than I would be carried along with the members of my family if something bad happens. So that's my stance. I'm going to let you guys comment on it further.
Mine's simple. Chevron deference.
Yep.
That's all I got to say. Go read it. Go read what was decided and watch what happens.
As a federal firearms license holder, gun store owner, person who administers the 4473 form, I say no. Give them the 4473 form so the Hunter Bidens of the world can lie and you can use it against them to put them in jail. Other than that, I have no other use for the process. It sucks. You should be able to have a gun at any time for any reason. It's none of your business why I own it. It's none of your business why I have so much ammo and so many guns. Again, they're like potato chips. You just can't have one.
Absolutely, brother.
Chevron deference is going to rip all those laws apart. Going to shred them.
So I will also say this as a co-FFL, myself and Dave, We have a Dave Kemp have a FFL. We have a gun range, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm very well aware of all of the red tape. And I'll tell you what, it sucks being a FFL. It sucks.
Absolutely.
You can be at any point, you can be practically rated by the ATF. They give you a documental colonoscopy. And if you have one thing wrong, you stand to lose your license. And that's by design. It's not for them to catch it. This is what bureaucracy does. Bureaucracy only punishes honest people. It does not punish dishonest criminal people. Just like laws, like gun laws, they do not punish law-abiding citizens. They only punish they only punish law-abiding citizens. They do not punish the criminals, because criminals don't give a rat's ass what your law is. They're going to get their gun by either stealing it or getting it on the black market. You know, we have guns that flow into this country from foreign countries all of the time, and criminals can get their hands on them. And the ones that you can't buy in the store, the fully automatic type, that's not going to stop. The only thing that stops with gun laws is it makes the sheep less armed against the wolves.
It does. We had a minority gentleman from New York on our show. I can't think of his name, Bruce. I'm sorry. Maybe you can. But that poor gentleman was manufacturing firearms without serial numbers for his own personal use. And he had names for each of these guns, these beauties he made. They were fantastic because he was a skilled craftsman. I think he's still in prison. They came, took his guns. They took everything. Now, what is up with that?
Well, his guns had to have killed a bunch of people, Chuck.
You know, they stood up in the middle of the night. They snuck out of the house and they unloaded themselves.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Well, I mean, that's why we need gun regulations, because guns do that all the time.
Yeah.
They just run out and start murdering people.
So yeah, I don't remember his name. I could go find it, but you know, I'm gonna beat the crap out of people. Go to Twitter and type in Chevron deference, get the results, and then go back to Twitter again and type in Chevron doctrine and get the results, and learn something, folks. You gotta teach yourself, because you're being lied to day in, day out by the media. If you turn it on, you're being brainwashed.
And there's a reason he's telling you to use X, Twitter, not Google, not what you're used to using. Go use X's search engine. It's that big of a difference.
Yep. And then if you don't understand it and you don't have an account, I'm sorry, but you gotta grow. It's called the Great Awakening for a reasoning, right? So when you open up Twitter, you type those words in, you'll get a list. And then when you click on those different conversations, you get what's called threads. And in those threads, you'll find people, you'll find lawyers, you'll find Elon Musk, you'll find Trump, you'll find people that are in the fight. And they'll lead you to videos. They'll lead you to documents. And it's just an incredible tool to use. All right. I'm sorry, John. Go for it.
No, you're totally fine. I was actually doing what you were telling them to do. I already knew what Chevron deference was, but yeah.
Use both words, deference and doctrine, and then you'll get two different results. And again, you're taxing your mind. It's making you think, instead of sitting in front of the TV going, oh, God, they're going to take my guns away. No, they're not, because guess what? They don't have the power. We do.
Yep. So this is a harrowing thing to deal with. I was at work the other day when one of my coworkers said, did you hear about the shooting in California? And I quickly looked up because I was on my way to a meeting at work, and I looked it up on my phone real quick, and two kids shot at a Christian school, and didn't actually look into the backstory until earlier today. This guy was a Hamas supporter, attacked a Christian school because of the Gaza genocide, and killed these two beautiful little boys over that. Now, have you guys heard about this?
Nope.
No, but look, it's from the Jerusalem Post. You know they must be lying. Come on.
Right.
Sorry,
but
I had to
but
go
it's
there.
no, it's such a true thing. The instant the shooting does not fit the narrative, it is memory hold. Just like the shooter down in Georgia that looked like transgender. All of these other shooters, I think 9 of the last 10 mass shooters in schools have been transgenders or identifying as transgenders. Somebody that is mentally ill and confused about their gender is being fed all of this propaganda from the media that they are hated, that they're this, that they're that, and they decide that they need to do something. And
so I'm gonna beat a dead horse here, right? You can go type that stuff into Twitter. Transgender drugs, transgender reactions to drugs, and it's amazing the stuff that'll pop up. And you have to play with the words a lot of times, right? But what John's talking about is exactly right. These people are treated with drugs that are, I'm going to go into the hit list for YouTube, but big pharma. That's all I'm going to say, and I'm going to shut up.
Yep.
My comment is this. It's 2024. We used to have institutions. We used to institutionalize people.
Yep.
We don't anymore. We coddle them. We say we understand them, and we leave them to be on the street. We let them sort of blend into society, as they say. And ultimately, it's not the best thing for probably a good 10% of them. They need to be institutionalized, and they need help.
Yep.
Look, it's in every culture. It's in every state. It's in every county. I can take you to the local grocery store. I've got a multi-haired gentleman who thinks he's a woman, wears a tutu, and he's cashing out people at the local grocery store. Look, it's kind of comical, but it's really sad at the same token.
It's not.
It's like, come on, get this kid some help. Get him, oh, well, he's working, he's being productive, or she, him, they, whatever they call herself. I don't know what to say. All I know is there was a time where we took care of people like that, and not in a bad way. Just because you're institutionalized doesn't mean that that's the worst thing for you. I mean, he's in more danger being out on the street from some, redneck who can't tolerate him, and he's going to get his ass kicked at the very least. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I'm going to give you a few scenarios and then we'll move on. But here in New Hampshire, right, I don't have a game in the fight. I don't have kids in school here, but I've heard this. They wear cat tails out of their pants in school.
Furries.
They go piss in freaking litter boxes.
Mm-hmm.
They walk around with leashes around their necks. I'm going to tell you what. When I was raising,
John's got the scratchies already.
Yeah,
when I was raising my kids, and they'll tell you, that ain't happening, brother.
Yeah.
And if y'all are letting that happen, God help us.
There's the breakdown of the nuclear family. There's the lack of a father figure. There's
okay.
There's
not
the
okay.
The lack of an ass whooping and a switch, and wait till your father gets home. I'm sorry.
This is one of the things when myself and my partner Dave Kemp started Righteous Savages, one of the things that we were trying to do was enable and enact men to be men, to stand up and be men, not to be weak, not to be passive, but be strong leaders. When you go back to the history of the destruction of the family, they've already basically beta tested this on the black community. When you go to the 1950s, post World War II, and you actually look at the polling from back then, the demographic within the country, within the United States, that had the most mother and father units was the black community. Mm-hmm. They were also, and this is, mind you, in the middle of Jim Crow. This is the middle of all of the discrimination in the South. They were actually the most happy of all of the demographics because they had the whole family together on a larger percent. I think it was like 75 or 76%. Crazy high. Just barely beating out whites. I think whites were in the high 60s. Then the 1960s come, and you had LBJ, who is one of the most corrupt, evil presidents we've ever had, passed the Welfare Act, the Great Society, all of these other things that led to the father in the black community, in the black home, being replaced by the government. And when that happened, within 2 decades, they were the demographic that had the least amount of fathers in the home, and to this day are still that. And what do you have? Inside of the inner cities, predominantly black, crime is rampant. You have a bunch of men in gangs, young boys and men in gangs, drug addicted because there is no male leadership in the home. And they destroyed the family in the black community. And now they are trying to do it in every demographic. It is by design, and men need to stand up and take charge and be the leaders in their homes that they need to be.
Yeah. What along in that same time frame you're speaking of, John, was when they incarcerated the black males to no, I mean, they obliterated them. They were in jails, prisons all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
And then what did they introduce? Rap music.
Yep.
So a lot of people, they go flip out when I tell you this, but again, go do your freaking research. What megahertz or hertz, I don't know the right terminology, but what sound frequency comes from those rap songs and what message is received? Go read the words, go listen to the megahertz and study those sound frequencies, and all that was controlled by a three-letter agency.
Yep.
And I used to think people were crazy when they told me that, but then I went down the rabbit hole, and lo and behold, look what happened to the black families all over the U.S.
Yep. And go down the rabbit holes of other things like what the CIA was involved with MK Ultra and all this stuff. Only 1% of those documents actually exist. 99% of them were destroyed. And of that 1% that we do have, we know that the government was working on mind control to assassinate people.
Well, yeah, exactly. And MK Ultra was changed to another name. I still haven't figured that out, but that's what they do, right? They always figure out a way to change the name of it, and then they go create a patent. I mean, the patents that are going to come out here in the next 5 years, it's going to blow people's minds. And I could go on for hours. Energy is one of them. Why do you think Trump talks about energy all the time? How's he going to turn around the country in such a short time? I can tell you why. Patents. Yeah. Yes, sir. Patents are going to be released big time.
So there is currently a census bill. The 2030 census is the next census. There's been bills that have been introduced to eliminate non-citizens, exclude non-citizens from the population as it counts to the electoral college and electoral. And wouldn't you know it, it seems like the Democrats are not in favor of this. It's really weird. This is Nancy Mace.
Are illegals counted in the census, yes or no?
Yes, if they're permanent residents, if they reside in the U.S.
Okay, so when you're doing the census with folks and asking the question, you're asking them if you're not asking them if they're a citizen, do you ask if they're a permanent resident?
We ask folks to list everyone who lives at that residence.
Okay, but you're saying you're only counting illegals if they're a permanent resident.
Well, if they live at that residence. It's the interpretation of the instruction.
So your definition of permanent residence is that they live at a place in the U.S., at a U.S. address.
Yes, I believe I misspoke because there's a legal definition to permanent. Yeah, to permanent resident. It's someone who usually lives at that address.
So I'm going to ask the question again. Are illegal aliens, criminal illegal aliens, the people that break the law coming into our country when they enter in the door illegally, are they counted in the U.S. Census, yes or no?
Yes.
$20 million, guys. 20 million. That's the number that in my mind is way lower than the actual number, but 20 million. Do you know how much that can affect the electoral makeup of this country? The electoral college, take away electoral votes from smaller states that are red, give it to bigger blue states, and shift the entire electorate of this country around. We better be calling our congressmen on a daily basis and telling them, get this under control. Now, Trump's going to deport a lot of these guys, but we've got to seal up that border, and we've got to put laws in place that prevent the Democrats and the crazy left from using these people who are here illegally, who broke the law to get here, to affect our elections. Not a single one of those people should be allowed to vote, much less cross the border. I'll turn it over to you guys.
It's Biden's army.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's official. They got uniforms. He passed out T-shirts as they came across the border. He gave them a credit card. He gave them a cell phone. He gave them a pass to any blue city or any city that they wanted to go. Look what's happened. What happened to the 88,000 IRS agents that were hired? What happened to all the battle rifles that were purchased for those agents, IRS agents, and the trillion rounds of ammunition? I'll tell you where they're at. They're in Connex boxes, and they're sitting in blue cities protected by blue police forces, just waiting, just sitting there. When the phone call rings out, head to the Connex box, and let's start the 2020 riots all over again. Think about it. How many Chinese nationals cross that border? How many radical Islam Iranian people cross that border? We don't know. We know there's a lot. We know we saw them in line. We saw many of them, hundreds of them in line. Trained fighters, all fighting age men. This is just getting started, folks. If you think it's over because someone got elected, no, you better be ready. Survival dispatch exists for a reason. It's how you're going to survive in an environment that you've never experienced. You've never had this on our soil, and it's going to go down. It's just a matter of how long it lasts. If I'm lying, I'm dying. It's practical. It makes total sense.
So Chuck and I start texting each other at 4 a.m., 4:30, whatever it is. And I can't tell you how many times I've told him that no matter what people say, the Great Awakening is going to be you defending your home, your neighborhood, your town. And you can, shrug your shoulders, go watch your freaking NFL, go watch your freaking NBC, whatever it is. Why do you think these people are here? What are they here for? Peace treaty? Nope. They're here to start a war in our streets. Where is it going to start? The blue cities. But you can bet your behind that it's going to filter out into the red areas to test us.
Well, for years we've been being tested. All of our electrical infrastructure has had AK-47 rounds in the transformers to see what type of grid activity they could eliminate.
Yep.
Remember 3 summers ago?
Yep.
Remember units were going out in every different state? I have a lot of people in the power industry that deal with the power grid. Every one of them are saying, look, it's the same MO. They're testing us. They're trying to see what they can take out with small arms. It's amazing what the damage can be done with certain small arms.
Yep.
You know the difference between 223 556 and a 762 by 39? They'll penetrate one of them cans. They'll drop that PCP oil on the ground. They'll overheat the system and burn the transformer out. Takes out thousands of people. And that's only a round. Very simple.
Yep.
They cut the power. Remember, 10 days of darkness. We were supposed to get ready for, being on your own, being self-sufficient. That's why we advertise these products on this show, to prepare people. Chris has gone to great lengths to educate folks. He's acquired and amassed a lot of caring individuals. Let's face it, gentlemen, the 3 of us have better things to do tonight than to sit here and tell our fellow Americans, what the truth is and how they can help themselves. And that's really what the basis of the show is all about. This ain't about Chuck and John and Bruce. This is about you. And if you don't take the information seriously, you'll pay the penalty. And look, we don't even know if we're going to be able to survive. We're just doing our best and trying to help you do your best. That's the bottom line.
Yep. The reality of warfare is you may die quickly, you may survive unscratched, but you have to be prepared.
Hey, John, you posted up what's the guy's name? Kanzi put up a comment. Can you pull that up again?
The one about rap
400 megahertz.
440.
440.
Let me see if I can find it.
Because he was spot on, or he or she. I don't know who that is.
Well, I'm going to have to talk to Kanzi about
that one.
Down
that
the
one
road,
right there.
I may need a researcher.
That is exactly what I'm talking about. Kanzi nailed it. That's what they did to those prisoners. All the black males that went into frickin' prison during those times, they got into rap music. Why? Because they were fed rap music, and it was all at that megahertz. And oh my God, there's so much research there.
We're not allowed to talk about certain numbers that have a G after them, but there's certain things that have been happening to put certain things in certain bodies of everybody here, and sometimes they get activated by that. Look, this is serious business. This is not it's not a joke. It affects you, your farm animals, your dogs, your cat, all of us. We've all been exposed.
We're under attack, period.
Yeah, definitely under attack.
Yeah. Kanzi, I'll give you a shout out. You've done some wonderful research tonight, posting stuff. We need to talk because I may need a researcher down the road. Just FYI. Live research.
We love you, Kanzi.
Yeah.
So real quick, I want to show this. There's a new name that kind of surfaced over the last couple of days for head of the ATF. I know pretty certainly based on what I've heard that Brandon Herrera is being vetted, but also Blake Masters is being vetted. And this is Blake Masters. This was he ran for Congress in Arizona. And this is one of the promos that he put out.
This is a short-barreled rifle. It wasn't designed for hunting. This is designed to kill people. But if you're not a bad guy, I support your right to own one. The Second Amendment is not about duck hunting. It's about protecting your family and your country. What's the first thing the Taliban did when Joe Biden handed them Afghanistan? They took away people's guns. That's how it works. I'm Blake Masters. I'm running for the U.S. Senate in Arizona, and I approve this message because without gun rights, before long, you have no rights.
Pretty strong statement. I am all for having a pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment head of the ATF because that will do the biggest job of gutting that government agency down to a nub. And then I actually like Brandon Herrera's approach where he is actually he said, I will cut and slash it down to the point where it's useless and then propose that it get abolished.
There you go.
Ideal, please. If you guys don't know the history, and I think I've said this on the show a couple of times, the ATF was on the chopping block in 1992 and 93.
No, 3-letter agency.
Yeah. Okay. But they were on the chopping block in 92 because of the budget. We had a budget issue, a budget shortfall, and the ATF was deemed one of the more useless organizations in the country. At the time, they had an inside look at a little religious organization in Waco, Texas, called the Branch Davidians. And they used the fact that they had been going to gun shows and buying guns, and they swore they had illegal firearms, all of this stuff. And instead of getting the guy that they knew who the leader was, David Koresh was a rather insane individual. I'm not going to deny that. Very, very much religiously wacko. But they could have gotten him any day of the week because he jogged. He went to town every day. He played music at a local pub with his band on Thursday nights. He jogged up and down the roads around the compound, the Branch Davidian compound, on a daily basis. And instead of doing that, they staged a massive raid because what they wanted to show was their power to take down deadly and violent criminals, even though nobody had actually shown violence in that organization. And they didn't until they were attacked by the ATF. And what ensued was a several month long standoff that ended up with the engulfed in flames death of 84 people. 26 of them were children. So that's what the ATF does. They screw everything up. And I remember watching that compound burn to the ground when I was a young man. You know, I think I was, I was 93. I would have been 11 years old. And I remember watching it. And my dad said, this is why you can never allow government to grow beyond where it should be. And it's true, because there were a lot of needless deaths because a government agency was trying to prove its worth. They have no regard for human life. They only have regard for survival and growth.
So I would have to do a little more homework because it's been a long time since I even watched that whole fiasco that went down. I was a little bit older than you, but was BLM involved in that at all? Not Black Lives Matter.
Yeah,
Bureau of Land Management.
I don't think so.
Bureau of Land Management.
Yep. All right, Kevin. Enough with the smart aleck comments there. Yes, I'm still a pup.
I'm the old guy in the room. So.
But
yeah, Bruce likes to say 3-letter agencies, and I get it. ATF, right? Well, alcohol and tobacco, I mean, that's only good unless you're building a stadium in every major city around the country, right? We can tax the alcohol. We can tax the tobacco.
Yeah.
It's all great, right?
And that's IRS.
And we knew it as a 4-letter agency, Bruce, because the jackets always said BATF.
Yeah.
Bat fuck. Exactly. We called it bat, sorry. And that's just what it was.
I love it.
You're showing your age now.
I know.
Yep. And you're right, Roy. Janet Reno was the attorney general running the ATF.
Oh, where have we heard that name before?
Yep.
Oh,
The Clintons.
Wow.
I tell you what, if you want a great documentary on that will absolutely blow your mind. It was made in the late 90s, so it's a little dated. It was Waco. I can't think of the name of it. It's on YouTube. I'll find it and I'll put it in the chat. But
I'll help you out. What was it? What did it involve? Waco and what?
It's hold up.
You got X in action.
Yeah, I got you. I got you covered. Waco did what? Waco.
No, it's not. Let me see if I can find it real quick because it wasn't Waco. It wasn't in the. I don't think that it was in the. I've watched it several times.
How about Waco? Is it a documentary?
It is. It is Waco: The Rules of Engagement. That is the name of it. 1997, and it was done by the head FBI agent that worked some of the investigation. The things that were covered up, it will make you cringe, and that's almost 30 years ago, guys. Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah,
I mean, Waco was 32 years ago.
I just typed in Waco documentary, and it'll blow your mind. It'd take me 3 days to figure that out, but
yeah,
it'll blow your mind. I mean, that's a powerful search engine.
Yeah, it's a very long documentary. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes long.
Yeah,
it's really good though, worth the watch.
But
very dated, as I said earlier.
But watching Major League Baseball is more important, so don't worry about it.
Don't get me started on that. There's a lot of things that distract men, and sports is one of the biggest distractions. Don't get me wrong. Huge fan of sports. I watched sports all my life. I was a big basketball guy, so I followed Michael Jordan's career, Kobe Bryant's career. I quit watching basketball and a lot of other sports when it became too political.
Yeah.
And that was back in like 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
When all these athletes decided that it was more important to take a political stand than to play a game. And
so all I got to say about sports is, and it don't get me wrong, I had all my sons in sports all the way through their life, but they didn't go pro. But think about this: what was the draw to the Rome Coliseum?
Yep.
Right. What was the draw, and then what happened to Rome?
It fell.
And all the men were where? In the Coliseum, enjoying what?
Yep.
History repeats, my brother.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. So we're getting a little close on time, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of skip through some of these last couple of slides. This is an interesting one here that there are some drones flying from the ocean up the New Jersey coast around Morris County. Counted 9 so far. It's very interesting. This is from a couple of days ago, but you can see the lights, the drones there. Tell you what, drones are probably one of the more scary things that I can think of. There's not a real good way to combat them. One of the things that I'm very interested in hearing, and one thing that I think we all want to know the answer to is, did the CIA murder JFK?
Of course.
Again,
it's a three-letter agency.
I think we should have renamed this three-letter agencies must go.
We're proving your point minute by minute.
Hey, so yep. I'm scrolling through some text from one of our friends on the West Coast, and of course we text a lot. But she's a rice farmer out there. She's been on our show a few times, but she sent me a text the other day, and I can't find it and make my eyes cross, but she literally saw hundreds of lines of drones. Well, she's not sure what they are, but they're all in a single file. It's two rows of them. And above her, she's out there in California, and they did an exercise. Some things happened at the leader, and then they just disappeared. So she's been watching the skies ever since, but that's on the West Coast. You're coinciding what John just talked about on the East Coast in New Jersey. Same thing's happening on the West Coast. What are they prepping us for?
Yeah. And what about the nuclear spike that just occurred?
Yeah, I still want to know more about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want the Navy to come out and say something. Look at there.
Hey, I've got a special guest for the last couple of minutes of the podcast. This is my foster daughter, Piper.
Piper.
She's been so good, quiet upstairs, and now she just decided to say hi.
Hi.
Yeah. Full energy.
That's what it's all about, John.
Yeah. So,
That's why we do podcasts, because we want those to survive.
I said we should do a daddy-daughter podcast, but real quick, I'm going to throw a couple of others up here, and this one's just insane to me. Shh. Keep our voices down, all right?
Morning, y'all. My name is Russian Kimball. My pronouns are he, him, his. I have the privilege of serving as the pastor of Broadway United Methodist Church in downtown Orlando, and also my drag name is still a work in progress. So if you have any ideas, just please let me know. There's one floating around, but I'm not going to share that one with you, but I'm still taking other suggestions.
That's my clerk at the grocery store.
I tell you what, the fact that there are church denominations that allow this in their pulpits, and this has not been absolutely rocked out, root and branch, out of the country. It's disgusting, and it's gross, and it needs to be. The churches and the people that actually believe in the Bible need to root this stuff out. It's called tearing down the high places, by the way, if you want to know the honest biblical truth about it. We have to tear down the high places.
You know, God. So I'm not a guy that reads the Bible and stuff, but God wanted us to build churches, go worship God, blah blah blah. Right? He wanted us to do that. That has been taken over by who? It's been taken over by Satan now, right?
Oh yeah. Yep.
So what do you have to do, right? You got
our music, our movies, now our churches. I mean, we're on full frontal attack.
Yep.
And people always tell you got to go back to the church. I'm like, until they quit taking money from the demon, I'm not going back.
Absolutely.
I'll go to the woods again tomorrow for 8 hours of daylight. And I'll talk to God all day while I deer hunt tomorrow.
Amen.
That's how I'm going to do it.
Yep. Let me. It's a little bit of a funny one, but kind of ties into the last one. What does he drive? Does he drive a Jaguar or a Prius?
Well, now Jaguar is pretty bad off too, right? So probably one of each.
At least he's ready for high water.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's this?
That's a toy for one of Daddy's guns. So
there was one of these videos I wanted you to play.
Yeah.
There's some parenting for you right there. It's a magazine, Dad.
This one's gonna be a gun enthusiast, I have no doubt, based off her personality alone. Anyways, well, that's pretty much what we've got. I've got to get her up and get her to bed. So
that's all good, brother.
We'll probably wrap it up there. I want to give you guys a little bit of homework. In light of everything that we discussed, I think it's important for us to be engaged and be involved. Get on X, the #1 news arbiter of news in the world, and you can check multiple sides of the source. You can search and let that be a way for us to let free speech spread even further. Educate yourself on your local government and what's going on in your local town, because that's where change starts, is on the local level. And spread the truth to people. Post and make people aware of what's going on in your community and around the world. And I think that's really important. So I'm going to let you guys add anything that you feel like you need to add to that. And then we'll do the conflict question.
Go ahead, Chuck.
So all I can say is, again, the church is a vehicle of fellowship, It doesn't have to be a church. It could be at the Little League. It could be at whatever event you're at, where you socialize in your community. The key is to get involved. Communication, have conversation, not just, small talk, but in-depth stuff, what happened in the election. I find that it's real easy to talk to people now since the election. There's a sense of relief. People were thinking it. They just didn't know it was going to, materialize. And now that their beliefs and the way they voted has now come to fruition, a lot of people are looking to kind of air it out. So again, we belong to Tactical Civics. We talk about its place in the community. If you're not a member, you should consider. But if nothing else, just talk to your neighbors. Get your neighbors prepared. Make sure you're prepared. Again, it's about the children. John's got his daughter there. The whole point of this is that we're passing on something to our children that's worthy, and becoming of the greatest generation. And again, the anniversary of Pearl Harbor today, you need to remember what the greatest generation stood for, and try to emulate that in your life as best you can. And if you don't have anybody in your family that was a part of it, research it, figure it out. They'll tell you all about it. And the story's there, just waiting to be read.
Absolutely. Good words. Good words. Bruce, did you have anything?
Yes, sir. I can't shut up. So this was a little something I shared when we actually had SG Anon on our podcast. It's probably been over a year ago. And, SG he's powerful to talk to and listen to his responses. But one thing I told SG when I was trying to tell people they got to turn off the TV and they got to learn how to do research, I said, SG, what happened to me? And I actually got choked up, and it's pretty hard for me not to get choked up. But I was listening to Glenn Beck one day when I was driving to the dump, and Glenn Beck was talking about what men need to be doing right now. And Glenn Beck said these words. He said, you need to ask yourself, ask God what you're supposed to be doing. And then Glenn Beck went silent. I mean, it was radio silence for probably 30 seconds. He said, men need to ask what they're supposed to be doing right now. And it was radio silence. And 30 seconds later, he said, and don't be scared when God answers. And I'm going to tell you what, that thing hit me the heart. I went and did it. And Chuck will tell you, lo and behold, we went from, where were we at, Truck? What was the name of it?
We were at the GCD network.
We were on GCD network. And then Kevin Hoyt came to us out of the blue and said, do you guys want to be on Grassroots Warrior Network? And our audience expanded. And, God's got me on a path. It's podcasting. It's communicating stuff on Facebook, Facebook Messenger, text messages. And I'll tell you, I keep these guys all the time informed. A lot of them think I'm crazy, but guess what? A year later they go, whoa, that was what he was talking about. Right.
That's
and I document it on Facebook, True Social, and Twitter. And then when things happen and it really comes, what do they say? What did Q say? Future proves past.
That's right.
That was one of his quotes. And I'm telling you, I got stuff documented on all those platforms that are coming true right now. So the message to the men is, why are the women doing all the work? Go ask God, what are you supposed to be doing? Are you supposed to be watching football? Or are you supposed to get in the fight? Because when the fight comes to your street, I'm sorry, we've been warning you.
Yep, absolutely.
Our Stone Jr. just texted, where are these guys' podcasts? We're on the Grassroots Warrior Network. The show is called The Sting. I'm the host, Chuck Nagel, and Bruce the Moose there is he's on our boards. He's the co-host. But more importantly, we believe that we're in the midst of the greatest sting operation the world's ever seen. Yep. And every day proves more and more that this is a military operation. Trump is a wartime president. And ultimately, folks, the military is in control. They have everything, and nothing can stop what's coming. That's what we were told, and that's now what we're seeing.
And here's the key to all that, right? All these people are sitting back, waiting for stuff to happen, right? Nothing happens until we do something, right? The white hats cannot make a move until Chuck, Bruce, and John go do something. And then I watch these people texting in. I challenge you guys. I don't know you. What are y'all doing? You're following this podcast. Go ask God, what are you supposed to be doing? I'm proud you're listening to the podcast. Don't get me wrong, but really sit back and go ask God. And don't be, and like Glenn Beck said, when he went silent, radio silent for 30 seconds, brought me to tears. And he said, and don't be scared when he answers.
Yeah.
Powerful. I
Yep.
mean, it was powerful.
Absolutely. Great words, great insight. And I think that we all need to be men of action, not men of just talking. We have a shirt on our website. You guys go check it out at righteoussavages.com, on sale currently until Monday. It says comfort is your enemy. And we have hoodies and t-shirts. And that is one of the most true statements that popped into my mind when I was talking about how comfortable we are in this country.
Yep.
We're so comfortable that we'll let people lock us in our homes. We'll let people put foreign substances into our bodies. We'll allow crooks and criminals to be our leaders because we're so comfortable. We're so hypnotized by the evil in the world, by the football games and by the latest show that we want to binge watch and the fast food and the everything else. We are hypnotized by our own comfort. So get off your butts and do something about it. And you're going to, when you look back over your life, and this may be a little profound, but when you look back over your life, when you're on your deathbed, the only things that are going to matter are the people that are closest to you and the things that you did for them to make their lives better.
Amen.
And that's it. That's it.
You see the Christmas tree over my shoulder?
Yeah.
We want to wish you and your daughter there and your family just a very Merry Christmas, sweetheart. And I hope Santa Claus is good to you, okay?
Yeah. The presents. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for allowing Piper to hijack the episode.
Oh, it's all good.
We'll be back. We will be back. Oh, wait a minute. Got to do the conflicted question. I almost ran off without.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. This is a doozy, and put on your tinfoil hats. A doozy is a tough question.
Even when I go to the gas station.
This one's a doozy. So, what hit the Pentagon building on 9/11/2001? No plane parts were found.
A cruise missile.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a simple question. That was a simple answer because I think we all had the same answer. Yeah. There never has there been any plane parts found. So, yeah.
So here's, that was a great question to end the show on. So let's see who becomes researchers tonight and goes and looks on Twitter and asks that very question. And here's another question for the researchers. Why is the Pentagon shaped in a pentagon?
Now you're opening up some crazy rabbit holes there, Bruce.
Evil stuff, gentlemen.
Yeah. Warmongers.
Have you ever heard of a pentagram?
Thank you very much, my brother.
Well, we'll see you guys. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our content. If you want, we have the brief of every one of our episodes, and it actually even has more. There's a whole list of things we didn't actually even get to on the brief because we ran out of time. But if you guys want that, you can get that on our Patreon, patreon.com/survival dispatch. And it's only $9.99 a month. You get that. You get access to our internal chat on Signal. You also get our survival guide and all kinds of other things and more stuff coming down the road.
You can find Bruce and I live every Thursday night on The Sting at 9:00 Eastern. Bye, Piper. And I hope to see you there again.
Hey, just remember this. Elon Musk tweeted out what? We are the news now.
We are the news.
We are the news.
And the news media hated it. Until next time, guys. This is John with Survival Dispatch, Righteous Savages. We'll see you next time, and God bless America.
Amen.
My brother John.
Good night.
My name is Chris Evan, and I'm the CEO of Survival Dispatch. I was a member of our national powerlifting team for many years and won many state, national, and world championships. Even though I'm in great shape for being 55 years old, I am not immune to father time. Most of us feel weaker and make more trips to the bathroom as we get older. U.S. Army research has led to a breakthrough for the #1 water for older Americans. It's not a special sports drink, but a mix with essential nutrients most hydration drinks lack. Keyword, hydration. These nutrients are proven to enhance muscle strength, reduce soreness, and improve bladder health. A Texas doctor leveraged this research and formulated a drink mix to help you stay strong. Click the link below for up to 44% off at nativehydrate.com/dispatch, plus free shipping and a free gift. This is one of the best deals I've seen for high quality BCAA drink mixes. Don't miss this deal.